We have multiple updates surrounding your Pittsburgh Penguins, and these are updates to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Baby Penguins, because as the Penguins are off for the Four Nations face-off, the Baby Penguins have continued to play games almost every day. So we have plenty of updates, including a big one on Vasily Ponomarev, and also, we want to talk about players that have been sent down this season and how they are doing, such as Owen Pickering. So plenty to talk about regarding the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Baby Penguins during this break where they have been very active. We saw that big roster move before the Four Nations face-off break where a bunch of players were sent back down to Wilkes-Barre to get some playing time, and I'm going to tell you how they fared in those games as we approach the return of the NHL season on Saturday, just after this championship game between US and Canada on Thursday. So before we get started, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Penguins Digest. We're trying to get that subscriber count up and up and up as far as we can. We reached 1,000 subscribers. We're close to 1,100. Help me get there. Thank you so much for your support. And let's get right into the video. We're going to start with Vasily Ponomarev because this is a big one. An update with him isn't necessarily regarding his performance as much as it is what happened to Vasily Ponomarev in the last Penguins game just 2 days ago. They announced this, and I want to share it with you guys because I do think it is somewhat notable when any player receives any type of punishment from the league. So for Ponomarev, essentially what happened was he was involved in a little bit of a scrum, and he decided to get himself suspended. So he popped the guy, Pierre Dubas, and Ponomarev engaged in a scrum, and Ponomarev threw a punch, as you can see from the screenshot. He hit him pretty clean. It was a pretty good sucker punch. So Ponomarev got a 1-game suspension for his actions, and unfortunately that means that that's something that goes on his resume now. Now they're thinking, oh, he's just an angry Russian player. Now that's not the case, but that is how the narrative is able to turn very quickly when a player is suspended. So I don't like that this happened. Obviously, we don't ever want to see our players getting involved in these altercations and getting suspended, but it's also really bad for his reputation because it was a match penalty with 7:29 left in the game, and his team was up in the game. So that's not a very good time to take a penalty. So it's the timing of it, but also what it does to Ponomarev's reputation as a Penguin, a future Pittsburgh Penguin. So this is not necessarily something that we want to see, but it's something I want to tell you guys about because it's worth noting. Anytime anybody does anything good, we got to talk about it. If they do something bad, we also have to talk about it. So in this case, he did something bad, and we're going to talk about it. So Ponomarev suspended for a game, but as far as performance beforehand, he wasn't having any issues putting points up on the board. No issue at all. Vasily Ponomarev, I have written down here, he had 10 points in 9 games. In his last 9 games, he has 10 points for the Baby Penguins, and that's including the time where he was called up to the NHL and then sent back down. So he had a little gap in between there where he made an appearance for Pittsburgh, and then when he gets sent back down, all he does is score. That's all this guy does is score. So good for Ponomarev putting up numbers. Not good for Ponomarev getting suspended for a sucker punch. At least he made it count. That's all I'm going to say. At least he made it count. I like the aggression. I like the grittiness. I like the, I don't want to say goon mentality, but I like the chippiness. I like the aggression, right? You need that. You need that fire sometimes. And you see what that does to Team USA with the Tkachuks and how different they looked last night without the Tkachuks. You need players like that on your team. Ponomarev, maybe he could be that for the Pittsburgh Penguins someday. Let's talk about Rutger McGroarty, because this is a guy that has suffered way too much criticism since he was traded for, because we traded our top prospect, Jaeger, of course, but Rutger McGroarty is still a very good player, and he's not getting any credit for that, because they're constantly comparing him to Jaeger, constantly. You go play Winnipeg, and he's not even there. They're like, where's Rutger? Where's Rutger? And when those chants erupted, you would normally think that would do something bad to somebody's confidence. But Rutger McGroarty has stayed so even-keeled throughout this entire process. It was a very disappointing situation that Rutger found himself in after he was drafted in the first round by Winnipeg. That now he's like, hey, I need to be traded, or I'm going to test free agency or go back to Michigan. And that was never proven that was actually said. I will say, it was never proven that anybody said that. But if that is kind of the circumstances, it's just an unfair treatment of Rutger McGroarty. So the Penguins and Kyle Dubas jumped on that opportunity, and they paid a hefty price to get Rutger, right? They had to give up their top prospect to get him. But they knew that Rutger could be every bit as good as Jaeger, if not better. So they took a risk in bringing this guy in, and the numbers don't pop off the charts. His main problem is skating. His main problem is he has to continue to get better at skating so that he can play at an NHL pace. And he hasn't been able to prove that yet. So that's why, yes, he got a tryout at the beginning of the season for the team. Yes, he made the team out of camp. Yes, he got 3 games with the Penguins. But after that, Rutger McGroarty got sent back down because he is a project. He is a prospect. That's what makes a prospect. So he instantly became the Penguins' top prospect when they made that trade. And hopefully he was going to make the NHL team. He didn't, but we're looking towards next year now. And the better that Rutger can get throughout this year, he has back-to-back 2-assist games. Back-to-back multi-point games for Wilkes-Barre right now. So Rutger's starting to pick up the pace, playing some good hockey. The better players that you could surround him with as well. We got all these players to talk about in this video. The better players you could put alongside Rutger McGroarty, the more you can elevate his game and the more he can elevate other players' games. Because he can set guys up. He's decent with the puck. The only real knock on him is his speed and his NHL skating speed. So he's going to continue to work on that, continue to develop, continue to get in hockey shape, which was something that was a problem at the beginning of the season. He's back in it now. He's in a rhythm. I wouldn't be surprised Penguins give him another crack at it this year, but also that's a risk. That's a big risk. So I would rather maybe wait till next year on Rutger. And there's a couple players on this list I'm going to say that about. But Rutger is a great player. I'm still expecting big things out of him. I'm not giving up on him. A lot of people have. There was an article that was put out by Dan Kingerski about Rutger McGroarty. He basically said that everyone might be wrong on Rutger McGroarty. And that was essentially what the article was about. Now, I want you guys to read the article. I'm not just going to cite the article word for word, what Dan Kingerski said, but he basically explained why people might be wrong about Rutger McGroarty. And I agreed with a lot of things he said in that article. And I think that we should give Rutger a fair chance because he is actually going to be a really good player for us someday. And I'm tired of fans bashing Rutger. It's completely unwarranted. So let's move on to the next player on the list, Sam Poulin, who has seen some time in the NHL as well. Sam Poulin has 6 goals and 9 points in his last 9 games for Wilkes-Barre. And that's impressive. Sam Poulin's picking it up. And if he's going to pick it up, I think he should get another crack at it. This is one of the guys I truly believe should see some playing time for the Pittsburgh Penguins before the end of the season. He's earned it. He's done a very good job. He's been in the AHL for years. He's continued to develop. Former first-round pick by the Penguins. Very good player. Very good player. He hasn't been super effective at the NHL level because of lack of playing time. When he did get called up, he didn't play much. And that's a knock on Mike Sullivan that fans are constantly throwing out there, that he's not willing to give young players a chance. Well, if we start trading players away, like Anthony Beauvillier maybe, that opens up a spot for Sam Poulin. It really does. And I think he should be getting that ice time as well. You can't just stick him on the 4th line, which I've seen in the comment section as well, and let him there to die. That's not how you do it. You have to let the guys have some ice time and let them get a feel for the game. Because before you know it, they're right back down in the AHL and they didn't even play. Rutger McGroarty. Now, again, different situation. McGroarty was not ready, but Sam Poulin's close to ready. If not, he is ready. He's either ready or close to ready. So I'm ready to give this guy a shot. Again, 9 points his last 9 games. He's heating up, playing big minutes, top 6 forward for Wilkes-Barre Scranton. He's a big play. He's a big time player. He needs to prove himself though. That's the thing. You're not going to know based off the AHL production if they're going to be legit in the NHL. We have to get these guys up to the NHL and try them out. And if you don't try them out, how do you know what you got in these players? The first round pick. I mean, you've invested a lot in Rutger and Sam Poulin. So I'm ready. I'm ready for Poulin at least. Rutger next year. Poulin, he's one of the guys that should be getting the call. He really should be getting the call by the end of the season. Another guy that has kind of been spotty lately is Ville Koivunen. We did an entire video about this guy because he put up 4 goals. He had like back-to-back 4-point games or something crazy. And then nothing. Nothing out of Ville Koivunen. I wrote down here, he hasn't scored a goal in the month of February. We're here at February 18th. Ville Koivunen has no goals in the month of February. He has a -4 rating since the end of January. That's not good. And this is back to the same knock that was put on Ville Koivunen from the beginning. He is a boom or bust player. He is an all or nothing type of guy. He'll be a flash in the pan. He'll get you 4 points one night, and then he'll go scoreless for 2 weeks. It's so inconsistent. It is completely boom or bust with Ville Koivunen. I need a little bit more consistent scoring out of Koivunen. He's so talented. He's so good, but it's too inconsistent. You can't be that streaky in the NHL. It's okay right now because he's still developing. But in order for Koivunen to really be an effective NHL player, he's got to find a little bit more rhythm to his game. He's got to be a little bit more consistent because you can't go 2 weeks without scoring if you're projected to be a top 6 forward at the NHL level. You cannot go 2 weeks without a point. Without a goal. Without a point, that's a stretch. He did get some assists in there. But Koivunen could score goals. And that's why I'm expecting some goals out of him. And if he goes the whole month of February without scoring a goal, I'm thinking he might as well call it for the rest of the season. He's going to be the AHL. He's not getting a shot at the NHL if he goes a whole month without scoring a goal. Because look at what Sam Poulin's doing. He deserves a chance maybe more than Koivunen does. Ponomarev. If he gets his stuff figured out, he's gotten NHL time before. He's got a little bit more experience. Koivunen's a little more green, a little more fresh. He needs a little bit more development before he can really come up here and make an impact on the Penguins. Now, here's a guy. The next guy I want to talk about is one of my favorites that I get to talk about in this video because he is completely under the radar. I swear to you, I did not know who this guy was until this season. His name is Avery Hayes. Avery Hayes is an up-and-coming player for the Penguins. He was undrafted. He has 20 points in his last 18 games for Avery Hayes. 20 points in his last 18 games. He continues to work his way up the lineup for the baby Penguins and play with even better players on his side. And he is just getting better and better and better as the season goes on. This kid is the real deal. Seriously, Avery Hayes, I had not known who this dude was. He has played 33 games for Wilkes this season. He's 28 points. 20 of those 28 points have come in the last 18 games for Avery Hayes. He has been a machine, a monster, undrafted guy, undersized, but he has been so productive for the baby Penguins in recent days, in recent weeks, since December 28th. That's Avery Hayes. You got goals on the left column there. Then you got assists. Then you got points, plus minus shots on goal. He has had one game as a minus player in almost 2 months. This dude is on a mission. Who is this guy? Seriously, he came out of nowhere. Avery Hayes. He could be a future NHLer as far as I'm concerned. This is a guy that is putting up some video game numbers for the Wilkes Scranton Penguins. He's playing over a point per game, and it was out of nowhere. You just snap your fingers, and here's Avery Hayes. He's like, here, I'm here. I've arrived. This guy's awesome. I'm excited to see him. I really am. I think he could be a really good player for the Pens. Big things to come. Big things to come for Avery Hayes. Is a guy to keep your eye on, to keep a watch out for, and remember the name Avery Hayes. Because right now is his I'm announcing my name to the world tour because he's going crazy at the AHL level. So it's only a matter of time for Avery Hayes. Next player on the list, Emil Bemstrom. He's coming off back-to-back 4-point games before the last 6 games. So about 7-8 games ago, he had back-to-back 4-point games. And we're talking about Bemstrom at that point. This guy deserves a shot. Well, he did get called up by the Penguins. He was one of the first guys to get the call when we started having all those injuries before this Four Nations face-off break. All right. Well, what's happened lately with Emil Bemstrom is very much the opposite of that. Bemstrom has not done a whole lot in his last 6 games. He has had 5 games with no points in his last 6, and the 1 game he did score, he got 3 points. Another guy, just like Ville Koivunen, too inconsistent. You're going to go out there, you're going to score 4 points back-to-back games, and then in the next 6 games, 5 of those games, you're not going to get a point. It's not even the points. He's not got a plus rating, really. He's not getting the shots on goal. You're not productive. You're not helping the team. You don't necessarily have to score points to help your team win. But if you're not impacting the game in some way, and you're just kind of out there like a Savannah Ghost Pirate, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. So Emil Bemstrom, I need some more consistency out of this guy because he's had the experience. He's gotten calls to the NHL at least 4 times in his career. He hasn't done anything. And lack of minutes, yes, you can always make that argument for these young players. But their goal is to make more out of less. Their goal is to mold whatever they are given into the best product that they can put on display because they're essentially trying out for the team. You're not going to be handed this long leash. You have to earn it. You have to go out there and perform, and then they continue to give you more leeway and give you more minutes. You earn those minutes. All the guys that are already on the team have earned their spot and earned their minutes. You're the new guy on the block. You have to prove yourself. And if you're not able to do that, you're not going to get minutes. You have to do something to earn those minutes. You're not just going to get handed minutes, especially a coach like Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan's not just going to hand you minutes. So that's something to keep an eye on with Bemstrom and Koivunen. I need more consistency out of these guys if they're going to be productive at the NHL level, or if they're even going to get a shot at the NHL. That's an important aspect of this, is I need consistent scoring out of you. If that's your top, what you bring to the table is scoring, and you're not scoring consistently, you're just getting 4 points, and then 0, 0, 0, 0. No, you got to have some kind of consistency. I'd rather have a guy that's consistently right here than like roller coaster. Like that is Bemstrom and Koivunen. So we got to see a lot more consistency out of these guys before we can get our hopes up about Emil Bemstrom and Ville Koivunen. But here's a guy we can get our hopes up about because we've already seen what he looks like in the NHL, and that is Owen Pickering. Dude is an absolute monster, an absolute dog. He could be a first-line defenseman for his entire career. He is that good. And this came out of nowhere because before this season, Owen Pickering was still very much green, very much in development. But this year, the way that Owen Pickering played at Wilkes-Barre earned him a shot at the NHL level with the Pittsburgh Penguins, played outstanding, then gets sent back down. It's what he's done since he's been sent back down that has amazed me because he continues to be the same player that he was in the NHL. And this goes back to mentality. This goes back to character. This is something I really like about Rutger McGroarty and the way he handled the whole situation earlier in the season. This is Pickering as well. This is facing adversity and just facing it head on and dealing with it and not letting it faze you and continuing to play your brand of hockey, playing your game, going out there every day. Your coach knows exactly what he's getting out of you, and that's Owen Pickering. He's playing the minutes, and he's playing really well for the Baby Penguins. Since he was sent down, he has a plus 12 rating, best on the entire team, plus 12 since he was sent back down. He had almost 2 months of a skate at the NHL level, gets sent back down, and he has been as consistent can be. And I'm going to show you the numbers because the numbers are baffling. Look at this. This is since Owen Pickering came back to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Baby Penguins. That game that I have highlighted in gray is his first game back in Wilkes-Barre. The plus-minus rating is the column second from the right. He has had 1 minus game. 1 since he was sent back down. That is a player. That is a player. He is just the definition of consistency. And when he played for Pittsburgh, the maturity that this kid showed for as young as he is, I was like, he is an NHL defenseman, 100%. Why he was sent back down, I'm still not sure. I have yet to get an answer on that. But right now, I know he's getting another shot at the NHL by the end of the year because it's too easy for him down there. He is, whoo-wee. Owen Pickering is a man, and he's playing with boys right now. He needs to be playing with grown men up at the NHL level because plus 12 rating since he was sent down, he's just too good for that level. From last year to this year, the growth of Owen Pickering. I mean, for last year, Owen Pickering only appeared in 8 games, okay? He was a -9. He struggled. And when he came up to the NHL at first, maybe a little bit of struggle, but immediately he started to adjust, and he was able to play at the NHL level. He was not getting beat that much. He was getting beat less than some of our NHL defensemen, and he's a kid. So Owen Pickering, I really, really like this kid, and I think he's going to be special, very special, and the stats say it. I mean, seriously, defensemen, we're not looking at points. Defensemen, we're looking at how good are you at stopping the other team from scoring, and that's what Owen Pickering does. That's what he does, and at a high level, and he's a top pair defenseman in my eyes. He's going to continue to get better as time goes on. Let's talk about another defenseman I really like, Filip Kral. And I'm not going to talk about Kral for long because I do not think he's an NHL defenseman yet. I like what I've seen from Filip Kral. I think he's a future stud in the NHL, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think maybe next year, we could talk about Brunick as well. We have a lot of really good defensemen in our farm system. Guys don't understand that. People don't look at our defensemen in our farm system and say, oh, wow. I say, oh, wow, because I think we got at least 3 or 4 legit dudes down there that can come up in the next season or 2 and make an impact. And we're looking past the tenure of Sidney Crosby, Erik Karlsson, Kris Letang, Evgeni Malkin. When Kris Letang and Erik Karlsson are done, we need somebody to step up. Filip Kral kind of reminds me, he's that offensive defenseman. He's that dude. He's more of a two-way guy than people give him credit for, but his offensive instincts and his ability to make plays with the puck and score is that what makes me think of him as an offensive defenseman. He was a 5th-round pick by the Maple Leafs, so he wasn't a super highly touted prospect, but I watched his tape from when he was being drafted, and I was actually very impressed with Filip Kral. So what he's done for the Pens in his last 8 games, he has 7 points and a +4. So if you look at his points for the season, yeah, he's got 22 points, but he's been on fire. He's playing almost a point per game. So if you're an offensive defenseman, or even if you're a two-way defenseman that has offensive traits, I'm going to look at your points as defenseman. Owen Pickering, he played in the All-Star game, right? Give him some credit. He didn't play many games in the AHL this year, but he still made the All-Star game. So Filip Kral, he's got offensive instincts. He's really good with the puck. He's setting guys up like crazy. He's got a great shot. I've liked a lot of things I've seen from Filip Kral. Still very much in the process of developing his game to be an NHL player, to be well-rounded enough to play at that level. But I do like what I've seen so far from Kral, and I'm just saying, keep him on the list. Same that I said about Avery Hayes. Keep your eyes on him, because before too long, he's going to be a factor for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And here's a guy that we thought would be a factor for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He got sent back down when we started this Four Nations face-off break, and that's Yoel Blomqvist. And now with Blomqvist, it's a little bit different because he has struggled. His first stint with the Penguins, everybody's like, oh, this is our new franchise goalie. I think we jumped the gun a little bit on Blomqvist. We might have some better goalies in our system than Blomqvist. I still really like Blomqvist, but he's not playing his best hockey right now. Not even a little bit. He's not playing his best hockey right now. So with Blomqvist, we just have to continue to be supportive, because the way that he struggled at the NHL level when he got sent back down, he's still struggling at the AHL level now that he's sent down. So it's maybe a mental thing for Blomqvist. He's just got to clean this up a little bit. He's just a little spotty. He's a little spotty right now. He's not the Yoel Blomqvist that we remember from earlier in the season. His stats still look fine. And our defense is one of the excuses for him at the NHL level, but our defense at the AHL level might be a little bit more impressive compared to the competition. Compared to the competition, the AHL defense might be a little bit easier on him than the NHL defense, considering he's also facing a lower level of competition entirely. So if we look at the stats for Blomqvist, this since he got sent back down, I highlighted it in gray, similar to the graphic when we had Owen Pickering. Highlighted the graphic right here at the time that he went back down to the AHL after a month at the NHL level. So between January 10th and February 11th, he was with the NHL big club. Then he sent back down to the baby Pens. And since then, 4 goals allowed, only 25 saves. Let me tell you what the stats are on that board. So the first one's minutes played, then shots attempted, goals against, saves, wins, loss, overtime, goals against average save percentage. So look at the save percentage. 926 and 912 in the second 2 games. That's not terrible. I'm okay with that. Goals against average. That first game back, 410. Then 187, then 3. 3 is about the most that I'm willing to deal with there, because obviously if you're giving up 3 goals and your offense is averaging over 3 goals a game, you're giving your team an opportunity to win every single day. But they're 1-1-1 in those 3 games that Blomqvist has started. And if I'm the Penguins and I'm looking at Blomqvist, when I sent him down, yeah, I'm expecting maybe struggle the first game out. But if you're giving up 3-4 goals consistently, like even looking back at what Blomqvist did before this recent stint, I don't know. I'm kind of sketched out by it. I just am. There's just too much inconsistency there with Blomqvist. He's got a long way to go. I still think he has a lot of good traits. I think he could be an NHL caliber goalie, but he's got a long way to go. And we're going to get to continue to see the development of Blomqvist. We're going to get to see the development out of all these players I mentioned in this video. I threw a lot at you guys because this is basically our mid-season prospect report here. We're looking at a lot of numbers. You don't get to watch every game. You kind of got to go off the numbers a little bit. So I do apologize for bombarding you guys with numbers. But this is 9 prospects that we just did a quick update on. Just a quick update. It took us over 20 minutes to do that, but we talked about a lot of different players. And if you guys made it to this point in the video, you know the future's bright. Future's very bright. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, but when you see all of this talent, I didn't even mention a lot of guys. There's more than just the players I mentioned just now. These are just the ones that stood out to me when I was doing my research. We got some talent. And I haven't been able to say that for a very long time about this farm system. And I had a graphic built of Kyle Dubas' draft picks as well for the last 2 years. I'm going to save that for another video. But I appreciate you guys watching this because I just like to talk about these young kids. This is the next wave. This is the new generation of Pittsburgh Penguins that we're going to be watching for a long time. It's not always going to be Sid, Gino, and Tanger. It's not. We have to look past that now. And this team, these kids that are playing for Wilkes-Barre right now, they're the future. And that's important. So this is huge for the future of the Pittsburgh Penguins. These kids are our future. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll have more prospect updates in the future. Talk about the Four Nations face-off maybe one more time before the championship game. And we'll be back on Saturday. That'll be the first Penguins game since the break began. And we'll see how they look against the Washington Capitals, one of the best teams in the NHL. Be a good test for the Pens. And we'll see you again on the next video. Penguins Digest. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.